Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi podcast. I'm your co-host, Darth Salim.
And I am your main host, the Artificial Dragon, and welcome to the 46th episode of a podcast, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed our previous episode, which we did an introduction to the Yuzheng Vong. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know why. It's been gaining views. I just uploaded it today, so it's slowly gaining a lot of views. So thank you all the new subscribers and all that fun stuff. Before we go into today's episode, let me go ahead and get all the Patreons out of the way. If you're interested in our content or just love listening to me and Hannah talk about Star Wars lore and poke fun at it here and there, be sure to support our Patreon at patreon.com/canmayo. Once again, that's patreon.com/canmayo, where if you contribute to any amount, from the lowest being $3 and the highest being $10, you'll have instant access to our Discord server, where you could share general Star Wars lore, share memes, have general discussions, or just chill out and vibe with us, you know.
Yeah, most of the time we just chill and vibe.
Yeah, chill vibe. I think recently we were talking about dreams, vivid dreams, haven't we?
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I have the weirdest vivid dreams, I swear to God, though.
I don't.
But anyway, with that out of the way, so for the highest tier members, which are the smugglers, we have a Patreon art piece, which we release for each month, and this month's Patreon art piece is Darth Mar, without his shirt, but still keeping the mask on, because that's how he do.
Not just without his shirt, without his entire armor.
Yeah, he's not as buff as he looks underneath his armor, does he, Hannah?
He's a fucking manlet without the armor, so what the fuck?
Hey, you gotta convey your power as the replacement emperor somehow. But yeah, alright, Yoda. Anyway, but if you're not interested in, contributing to the smuggler tier, there's always the lowest one, which is $3. I believe the initiate, but anyway, I'm going to do the usual shout-outs for all the high-tier smugglers.
Take it away.
Yeah. We have Cameron Lee, Dr. Mbos, Elia Gestapi, Kenneth Young, Leon Fott IV, Tristan H., and fellow podcaster Voxcast to Nowhere. Thank you guys for supporting the Patreon and our channel for the past 2 years.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
And take it away with your drops here, Hannah.
Support my blog! Thank you to Earth the Turtle, who keeps sending me ass. I greatly appreciate it. It helps boost my motivation to actually do these. To the rest of you, please, you're absolutely welcome to send me some asks about my SWTOR tunes. Just send me, frankly, anything you want. They'll answer them, and I'll answer them in character. But yeah. Not gonna do the GoFundMe again because it's losing traction and whatever.
That's fair. I was going to give you a question yesterday because it was your birthday, and I decided to ask what do your characters do on their birthdays, which I thought would be appropriate, but I haven't got around to doing that yet.
Please send it to me. That'll actually be a fun one to do.
Yeah, it will be. But anyway, with that out of the way, Hannah, I'm sure you know what today's episode is going to be about.
Yes, we are going to be talking about Padme's Handmaidens.
And specifically, the original Handmaidens, when she was, being the queen for her 4 years on Naboo. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so especially after the Yuzheng Vong episode, I think it would be a nice little time to just go with something much more simple for our 46. Yeah, it's very simple. I say that, but I'm going to be diving into so many characters. But
yeah, but the handmaidens are actually very interesting, especially Sabe.
Yeah. Of course, it's going to be a little bit shorter than usual. I reckon I could be totally wrong if this would be like an hour and a half.
Say that, and then there's me doing all my rants, and it
Yeah.
comes to a fucking hour and a half.
Yeah, pretty much. At most, it would probably be 40 to 50 minutes long. Once again, I can't foresee the future, so I don't know what's going to happen. But we'll see. It's going to be a relatively chillax episode.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to But yeah, so we're going to be diving into the Naboo Royal Handmaidens. So a little bit of background in case you need to be brought up to speed and for our viewers. The Naboo Royal Handmaidens mainly serve the monarch of Naboo, which is very self-explanatory.
Yeah.
It was a tradition began by a queen of in Naboo's past. It isn't exactly known when the tradition started. I reckon it started with the very first queen of Naboo when it was founded.
Could be a possibility.
Could be.
It's very vague.
Yeah, it is. But essentially the handmaidens were invented during times of uncertainty. Like, if you recall in the Naboo episode, there was a period of civil war on Naboo.
Yep.
And, there was this one king that decided, hoo-ha-ha, I'm going to lead everybody together and conquer all the city-states and all that.
Yep.
From what the lore says, I kind of reckon that the handmaidens were created, quote-unquote created, during this civil war on Naboo's history. Mm-hmm. And the handmaidens were mostly serving as bodyguards and not stunt doubles. That's Johnny Cage.
Body doubles.
Body doubles. Thank you. For the queen during, to protect her from enemies of the state and everything like that, assassinations, all that stuff. I feel sorry for the handmaidens that get killed, but it's a dangerous and honorable job to undertake.
Yep.
But as the years go on, the handmaidens would just go away into obscurity. And it wasn't until Queen Padme was elected as the new Queen of Naboo did things change. Mm-hmm. She would be approached by our good old buddy, Captain Panaka, who suggested, hey, there might be enemies of a state that would want you dead, or former friends of your predecessor, the king, that might want you replaced. Why don't we go ahead and bring back the handmaidens? And Padme, being the goody two-shoes that she is, she doesn't like the idea of people being in danger for her sake, but for the future of her homeworld and for her to bring actual change to Naboo, she, of course, agreed.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense. It's a very good strategy.
It is a very good strategy. And of course, all of this follows Panaka in the novel series, The Queen's Shadow.
I was about to say Queen's Shadow.
Yeah, most of the backstories of all of these handmaidens are explored in The Queen's Shadow. I haven't read it personally myself, but I heard it's a very good book.
I need to pick it up.
Yeah.
I've heard, different things about it, but I want to pick it up personally.
Yeah. I believe there are... Okay, let me count them out real quickly. 1, 2, 3... I think there were 5 handmaidens that were picked out for
Originally.
Padme. Originally, yes.
Because she does have more after she becomes
senator.
senator.
Including the one that got blown the fuck up in the opening of the Attack of the Clones.
Rip.
Of course, I'm not going to explore those handmaidens since they're working for Padme when she was a senator, not as a queen. So I'll follow the original handmaidens of Padme.
Fair enough.
And the first one we will explore is, I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these names. I apologize. Irtere.
Irte.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Because I did my own research a little bit before we even thought of covering this. All of their names are phonetically sounding to Padme.
Yeah. Irte is not her original name.
Yeah, they all changed their names.
Yeah, which I'll get to in a little bit. But her original name is Urtama Balori. She was one of the original handmaidens picked by Onaka. When did Hondo Onaka come into this video? Anyway, Panaka, phonetically sounding words aside. She was one of the original handmaidens picked by Panaka. Unlike the rest of the handmaidens, Urtea had she had blonde hair and blue eyes, as you saw in that little picture over there. And the reason why, Panaka is looking out for candidates that looked very similar to Padme. Of course, not all of them resemble Padme, but the reason why Panaka picked her was to make her stand out compared to the other handmaidens. But her own backstory is kind of interesting. Also, she had the nickname of the blonde handmaiden because the rest of them were brunettes and had brown eyes and everything.
Yep.
But
you gotta look like Padme.
Yeah. Let me see. Interestingly enough, she was part of a royal family that was one of the candidates that ran for the queen, but lost to Padme in the election. So, Panaka kind of like, I'm kind of splicing both legends and canon if it doesn't sound too consistent, but in legends, she was part of a royal house that had her run for queen, but lost to Padme. She got distraught over it, blah, blah. But in legends, she worked in a acting workshop where she made
in canon?
Yeah, in canon, thank you. Where she worked in a acting workshop where she was basically the stage designer. She designed all these fantastical contraptions for, plays and everything.
That's cool.
One specific show that Panaka attended to, view the candidates and everything, she had designed a hover pad based off of an ancient design used by a Naboo queen in the ancient past. And she was able to create this thing with a limited budget, which is pretty impressive on her part.
That is very impressive.
But despite that, the ingenuity she had, the hover pad was limited on how much weight it could carry. And during this little stage, there were a bunch of singers. They specifically say sopranos, so I'm going with that. There were way too many sopranos on the hover pad, and it started to malfunction because it was limited on how much weight it could carry.
Yeah.
And, disaster happened. Panaka managed to save the sopranos. And Irte was very distraught after this because, she could have killed some people legitimately and she could be charged with something. And Panaka decided to approach her, and she was like,
hey, you want to be a handmaid?
Well, you won't get blamed for anything if you join the Handmaidens. And she was like, well, I have no other choice now, do I? So, yeah, she accepted. Let me see. Urte, when she became handmaiden, she was very bossy towards her fellow handmaidens. And she also was very distraught towards Padme because, she took the title of queen from her. Like, you took away what was rightfully mine. I should have won that. But eventually, she and Padme would...
fucking lightened up.
Yeah, she lightened up a bit, and she became legitimately close friends with Padme, as all the handmaidens would eventually become with Padme.
Yeah, they're very close-knit.
Yeah. But let me see. Urtea would take the position of, given her technological expertise, she took up a position of, designing Padme's headpieces and her gowns to be much more lighter and comfortable.
Nice.
Yeah. She also volunteered to be the Handmaiden's communications expert. So she was very tech savvy. She's your classical geek with the glasses, just typing out the tech wizard, basically, of the handmaidens. Urtea would become one of the handmaidens that would, accompany Padme off of Naboo, go to Coruscant. Well, actually, Tatooine first, then Coruscant, and then return to Naboo. She was one of the handmaidens that was present when Padme gained the allegiance of the Gungans and everything. She was there in the background.
Yeah, she was in the background.
Yeah, and then afterwards, after Padme passed her title of queen to her successor and everything, Urtea would actually move to the capital of Oda Gunga to pursue her love of art and experiment with Gungan architecture to hopefully improve Naboo's own architecture.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so a lot of these handmaidens, they have their own unique backgrounds and everything, which I think I really appreciate.
Yeah.
It's not like all of them are young girls that were randomly selected and everything.
Yeah, they have special skills. I mean, you have to have special skills to protect the fucking Queen of Naboo.
Yeah, some of them are actually pretty interesting. I think, is it this one? Yes, this one is actually pretty interesting. The next one is Rabe, and let me go ahead and send you a picture of her. Rabe is kind of interesting because she looks, even though she has the same hairstyle and eye color as Padme, she looks more tan.
Yeah, she's definitely a darker complexion.
Yeah. Her real name is Ranabe Tunsort. She was born to a family within the western province of Naboo. She would attend a prestigious school where she would study a variety of subjects such as acting, sculpture, and impressions. Despite her talent, she would actually form a forgery ring within her school.
Ooh.
So, like, yeah, she dabbled in
Fucking, like Veronica Sawyer in Heathers, she would forge like nurses' notes and hall passes and stuff.
Yeah.
That's for the musical nerds out there.
Good to know. I've never heard of this movie in my goddamn life, but good to know.
It's a movie. It was an 80s movie, but then it got turned into a musical.
Good to know. The only musical I grew up with was High School Musical.
Ha. Doesn't count.
But anyway, yeah, she was a little criminal in her younger days. When her ring was discovered, Rabe would be forced to try and distance herself from the ring and take up the subject of music and everything. However, eventually hard evidence came to light that she was part of his ring, and she was forced to get out of the school and save face, basically. And then I believe after this, she would actually be approached by Panaka, who offered her a position as, one of the Queen's new handmaidens. And Panaka, he approached her because he saw her criminal background as a useful asset for Padme. Like, hopefully teaching Padme to be more deceitful and everything like that. But when she was introduced to Padme, she swore her loyalty to the Queen and became her wardrobe mistress.
Nice.
And let me see. And she would be the one to help with Padme's elaborate hairstyles. Those ridiculous hairstyles that she always has.
Have you ever seen the fan art where I think it was one of her Clone Wars appearances, where she just kind of pops off the dress in front of Ahsoka, and she's just like... But then later she sneaks up behind Anakin as he's tinkering on something and pulls his hair, and he's like, "Ow, Stamps, what the fuck?"
I'm not sure if Rabe continued styling Padme's hair after she was queen, but I would not be surprised if she did.
I need to send that picture to you.
Yeah. But yeah, her criminal background did come into handy as she taught all the other handmaidens to, pickpocket. And she would even know how to read and understand body language. Which is a very...
spy thing.
Yeah, a little bit of a spy, yeah. She's... I wouldn't say she's completely a unsavory character, but compared to the other handmaidens, she's not innocent at all.
No.
During the invasion of Naboo by the Trade... Yeah, you're excused. During the invasion of Naboo by the Trade Federation, it was Rabe that calmly and collectively applied makeup to Sabe when the Trade Federation were walking into feed and everything. Yeah, she is very calm under pressure. And after Padme served as queen, Rabe would go to study music at a prestigious academy in Feed.
Nice.
Having a nice little life afterwards.
Nice.
Nothing bad happened to her, as far as I can tell, but yeah.
As far as you can tell.
Next, the third one is Sache. Let me see if I could share a picture of her. Sache. She is one of the youngest handmaidens.
Yeah, she was 13, I believe.
12, actually.
12.
Yeah, she was 12.
Little.
She was little, and her real name was Sashaha Adava. And as I said before, she's the youngest of the handmaidens at 12 years old. And when she was recruited, she was part of the same acting workshop as Irite. And she would be given the reason why she's part of his workshop was because her parents, she's kind of a closed-off little child, she doesn't talk too much. Her parents sent her to his workshop as a way of making her a better public speaker, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But of course, she didn't exactly like operating on a stage, which is why she always volunteers to do backstage jobs and everything like that, like pull the curtain and everything. Yeah. It was Sache that recommended to Panaka to pick Irite, despite, her blonde hair and everything. Because in their first encounter, I believe Sache kind of bumped into Panaka like, oh, I'm so sorry, because she kind of suspected that Panaka's real reason for being there was to pick handmaidens and everything. She's probably the most observant of all the handmaidens and everything.
That's a good skill to have.
Yeah, she would have a conversation with Panaka very often, and Panaka was all like, you seem to know a good amount despite being a 12-year-old. And she's like, oh, I know a lot of things. Blah,
She's
blah.
a smart kid.
She is a very smart kid. And Panaka was all like, how would you feel about becoming part of the Handmaidens? You have, a brown hair and eyes. You're a little bit younger, but you would make a nice little addition. And she's like, okay. Would I have to lie to my parents? And Panaka's like, no, you don't need to lie to them. Just tell them that you're shadowing a government official. Which
basically she is.
Yeah, which is technically the truth, so yeah. And she was like, yeah, I accept. And Panaka already realized that she wanted the role in the first place.
Yeah, it's better than being kind of blackmailed into it.
Pretty much,
or forced into it.
Pretty much. But yeah, Sache would actually be the one that would bring up that each handmaiden would change their names to sound more like Padme's.
Yeah, it helped, if I remember this right, it would help them travel better.
Yeah.
And lower the suspicion of, who is the queen.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, she's a very smart little kid despite being the youngest of all the handmaidens. So when she became handmaiden, she would serve as the intelligence gatherer and spy of the handmaidens.
And I believe she was also a messenger.
Yeah, she was also a messenger, but we'll get to that part in a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, also interestingly enough, she had a little rivalry with a fellow handmaiden. Let me see if I can find her name real quickly. Yane, who is also the youngest handmaiden at 12 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. All the handmaidens would have shared living quarters, and both of them...
they had to learn how to live together.
Yeah.
And work as a unit.
Sache and Yane would share a room together, and it would be an awkward relationship because, I don't want you going through my stuff. I don't want you going through my stuff, that sort of thing. And Padme was kind of getting annoyed at both of these young girls, fighting and being aggressive towards each other for no reason at all. And she's like, okay, fine, I'll switch your assigned rooms and everything.
I think, if I remember correctly, they switched them, monthly so they could all get used to cohabitating with each other.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it went down. Oh yeah, before I forget, so there's this nice little legend story where all the handmaidens would, they have very identical uniforms and everything. The red ones, they would do training exercises where they would run around shooting down decoy droids, and Padme would actually wear the same clothing as them and train alongside them, becoming a cohesive unit. And then after a couple of weeks of training together, Panaka would gather all the handmaidens together along with Padme. And he's all like, Padme, how do you think these handmaidens have operated? And Padme's like, I think they have trained spectacularly. And Panaka's like, handmaidens, may I introduce Padme, the Queen of Naboo? And they're like, what?
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Padme knows how to get down and dirty with her own handmaidens and everything.
Yeah, we clearly see that in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Yeah, Padme is kind of a Chad.
Yeah.
But anyway, where was I? Okay.
See that episode, by the way.
Yeah, it is a pretty lengthy episode.
It's a good episode,
a good warning. But let me see. Sache, let me see. Yeah, like I said, she's the most observant of the handmaidens, using her small and unassuming appearance to catch people off guard, and was actually the only girl that figured out, I already said that already. So during the invasion of Naboo, Sache would be one of the few handmaidens that stayed behind on Naboo to help out with the resistance movement and everything.
Okay.
And Sache would actually be the little messenger that would go back and forth to, provide intelligence to the Naboo resistance and everything.
Yeah. Little unassuming 12-year-old just go run back and forth.
Unfortunately, she did get captured by the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
And they tortured her.
Oh, no.
And I don't mean torture like threatened torture.
They interrogated her.
They actually cutted her up a good amount.
Oh, no.
And despite receiving several cuts that were obscured by her gown, she would not reveal any information to the Trade Federation at all.
That's an amazing, willpower.
Yeah, for a 12-year-old, yeah.
For a 12-year-old.
The Naboo people, they're something else.
They're a different breed.
Yeah, I can't imagine any 12-year-old that would buckle under pressure like that.
Yeah. Any 12-year-old would buckle under pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, Naboo children are something else, man.
They're like just kids. Anyway.
Pretty much. So yeah, during the invasion of Naboo, Sache, like I said, she had a long rivalry with her fellow handmaiden, Yane. It was found out during this invasion that they secretly had feelings for one another. And
I think I remember hearing about this. I just couldn't remember which two had feelings for each other.
Yeah. So Sache and Yane, the rereason why they were so aggressive towards one another is because, they couldn't understand their feelings because, they're 12-year-olds. Like, what is this I'm feeling? What the hell is going on? But yeah, they revealed their feelings to one another and they, reciprocated. And after the invasion of Naboo, I think when they got older, they basically got married and had a house together.
That's cool.
So yeah, and also for her bravery under the torture of a Trade Federation, Sache would actually be elected to become part of Naboo's Planetary Legislative Assembly.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, an interesting note about her. When Padme stepped down and she would be replaced by her predecessor, a woman by the name of Ritalia.
Successor, not predecessor.
Thank you. Successor, sorry. Sache distrusted the new queen.
Fair.
Because she saw the queen as lacking Padme's inherent kindness. Despite both queens having basically the same beliefs and everything. But despite that, and on the word of Padme to have faith in everything, she served the queen loyally.
Okay.
So yeah, very observant and very smart for a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah.
And then next is Yane. Let me go ahead and share a picture of her too. Yeah, as you can tell, both Sache and Yane are depicted with that yellow cloak and everything.
Yeah. Yellow? Are you colorblind?
Shut up! Orange. Whatever it is.
I think it's called the flame outfit.
Yeah. Yane was born as Soya Hyjin. Alongside Sache, she was the youngest of the handmaidens. She once worked as a weaver, and one day, when she was making blankets for a nearby hospital, she would be approached by Panaka, who offered her to become one of the queen's handmaidens.
Nothing special?
Nothing special. She was just working one day, and Panaka's like, "Hey, I'm Panaka. You want to join? Hell yeah."
Just like, "Hey, you look like the queen. Join the handmaid."
When she was first presented to Padme, Soyon eyed her headdress and pointed out that it would be much lighter and more comfortable if the headdress was made out of Kirlani silk. She has a particular eye for, designs and everything.
So I think she got along good with,
Sache, yeah.
Not Sache.
Yeah. Urte, thank you. Yeah, I reckon they...
See, I'm struggling too. I'm struggling with the names too.
But yeah, so after she became handmaiden, Yane would actually pretty obviously become in charge. She would be in charge of liaisoning with the other staff of the royal palace for the queen and everything.
Okay, she was basically her secretary.
Pretty much, yeah. She, as I mentioned before numerous times, she had a little rivalry with Sache.
Yep.
Little did each of them realize they actually had built up pent up feelings for each other.
Especially at 12 years old.
For some reason, I don't know why. Oh well, it's a interesting detail regardless.
A little bit.
But anyway, but let me see. Under Padme's service, she would also stay behind on Naboo to help out with the Naboo resistance and everything. There's no account of her ever getting caught, but yeah, she served a minor role in the occupation of Naboo and everything.
Okay.
And then after, Padme stepped down as queen, she would actually support Sache in her new life within the Planetary Legislative Assembly and would volunteer to do humanitarian movements for the orphans that lost their parents during the occupation of Naboo and everything.
Cool.
And eventually, she would purchase a house for her and Sache to live in together, and they started building their own family together.
That's cute.
Even adopting 2 twins as their foster children.
No, adopted children.
Well, okay, yes, that's what I meant.
That's cute.
It is very cute, and Yane would actually be the one to make Padme's wedding dress when she married Anakin.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's cool.
It is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
I do like the little aftermath details with all the handmaidens have a significant part in Padme's life.
Oh, just wait until we get to Save.
Yep, Save's the big dog in these parts. But anyway, so let me go ahead and go on to the second to final one, and basically the black sheep of all the handmaidens.
Yeah, we're at 4 now.
Yeah. The next one would be Danae. Let me go ahead and share a picture of her. She kind of has a minor role, and she mostly appears in Legends side material and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, as you can tell, she's also blonde, so she's not part of...
In this picture, she looks like she's got red hair.
Yeah. Does she? Yeah, she kind of does have red hair, now that I look at her again. It doesn't go into detail of what Danae's real name is. She's just always called Danae. Very, very
obscure.
Convenient, yeah.
She's obscure.
Yeah. Danae hoped to one day become a musical performer, and she would be trained in several Naboo instruments in her early days. Though tragedy struck when she was 16. Her family would die, and she would be left with a struggling farm along with a great deal of debt.
Oof.
Out of options, she would be forced to sell the property and would journey to the nearest city of Kiran. Using the last of her savings, she would volunteer for the Royal Naboo Security Forces and would train a year within the Queen's Handmaidens. I reckon she's like the oldest of the Handmaidens because she's 16 and a majority of them are like 14.
Yeah.
The youngest being 12 and everything. But yeah, Panaka became impressed with her keen mind, sharp wit, and natural mimicry skills. So I imagine that she would have filled the role as a spy, similar to Sache was.
Yeah, makes sense.
But unfortunately, Danae did not like listening to authority figures, and she asked Panaka if she could be reassigned to a different government agency and everything. Mm-hmm. And Panaka would actually recommend that she become part of a customs security division, which would give her a new freedom within the undercover investigations unit.
Okay.
So yeah, she found new freedom as basically the Naboo spy and everything. You know, classical TF2 spy, haha, backstab everybody. And it said that she serves a minor role within the Naboo resistance when the Trade Federation came in. Mm-hmm. Very similar to Sache and everything.
Yeah.
Afterwards, however, despite finding new freedom, Danae would find her job unsatisfying and left her job and became a hired gun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was not expected.
16-year-old leaving and deciding to become a hired gun.
Damn.
Yeah, let me see. She took many jobs, one of them being a bodyguard for a rich Rhodian noble, a spy for a rival family in the service of a wealthy Sharian, and she would even take a couple of jobs as an assassin.
Interesting.
And, kill a bunch of unfortunate victims of the process.
Yep.
At first, she found she had her reservations for taking these unsavory jobs, but when the credits started rolling in, she decided, okay, if I deal with my victims fairly and justly, I could continue life with a clear consciousness. Conscious, thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, that's noble-ish.
Noble-ish, but yeah, she's still the black sheep of the Handmaidens in this regard.
Then moving on
to the main one. Sabe!
The queen, the boss bitch, assistant of the queen!
Yes, queen!
Yes, queen!
Sabe is kind of a more fucking badass in the recent comics.
I love Sabe!
If I could be completely honest, I do think Sabe deserves her own episode because I believe her role in the Darth Vader comics is still ongoing, so her story hasn't ended, so to speak.
If she becomes more popular in the comments, like let us know.
Yeah.
Please. Because that would be very fun to cover.
It would be very fun to cover. But let me go ahead and do a brief dive into Sabe and her character. Sabe, she was originally known under the name of Saban. It's a silent T, S-A-B-I-N. Tesaban? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Sabin, thank you. Yeah, she originally went under the name of Sabin, and she was the very first candidate for Banaka to become one of Padme's handmaidens and everything. Sabin was born within a family of Halaset players, and as according to family tradition, she would attend the Theed Conservatory to study music. She disliked the path her parents laid out for her, but she kept most of her true feelings to herself. When she became 14 and old enough to vote, she was expected to take up an apprenticeship, though instead she would be approached by her good old buddy Panaka, who's all like, hey, would you like to become a handmaiden for the new queen? And she's like, fuck yeah.
It's like, hey, you look like the queen. You wanna be a handmaiden?
Yeah, like I said in the Padme episode, Sabe and Padme, who are played by Keira Knightley and, what was it?
Natalie Portman.
Thank you very much. Natalie Portman. They look identical.
They got mixed up by their mothers on the set.
So yeah, lore accuracy for these two.
Yeah, very lore accurate.
Yeah. But yeah, she looked exactly like Padme, and she would actually become the closest to Padme out of all the other handmaidens.
Sabe is Padme's right-hand woman.
Pretty much.
That's why I fucking love her. She is the yes queen.
Yes, queen. And of course, taking up the new name of Sabe, here's a nice little detail. They became so close that both developed a system of subtle signs to communicate to each other without undermining the deception of their roles.
That's awesome.
So I imagine they're like
little hand signals or
little
nods.
Okay, you remember that scene from Phantom Menace where Sabe, disguised as a queen, turns to Padme and she's like, "We're brave, Your Highness." I imagine that's one of the subtle signs that they're talking about.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just kind of like a thieves' cant in D&D.
Yeah, I like that. That's an awesome little detail.
It is a very nice little detail. Sabe, here's an interesting thing I came across. Sabe actually secretly fell in love with Padme.
Oh.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
I have seen that as a ship.
Yeah. But it
would be definitely healthier than Padme and Anakin. But everyone would agree with me on that.
Oh, Lord. But she was fully aware that Padme would not reciprocate her feelings and was actually shocked when she found out that she and Anakin had married and actually broke off their friendship with her.
Aww.
I mean, despite that, I think I read a little detail that they kind of had a little chat. laughed the night away, and they decided to part ways.
Aw, but still, that's sad.
It is a little bit sad, yeah. But Sabe was insanely loyal to Padme.
Yeah.
Despite, aside from her secretly loving her, she legitimately was loyal to Padme to the very end.
She was very loyal to Padme.
Like, she even went on undercover missions for Padme to Tatooine to find Shmi Skywalker and free her.
Yeah.
Which
That was unsuccessful?
Yeah, unsuccessful, but she continued with this organization. I can't remember the name of them at the top of my head, but they were basically a underground movement, like the Underground Railroad and the
so slave liberators.
Yeah, she became part of that organization to help freed slaves and everything.
That's cool.
She, when Padme died, all the handmaidens openly wept Padme's death, but Sabe took it the hardest.
Well, no shit. That's her best friend who fucking died.
Yeah. And then, of course, fast forwarding to
the Year of the Empire.
The Year of the Empire, which is 2 years, is it? No, 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, by the way.
Okay.
She would come across Darth Vader, who was doing his own investigation of how Padme was able to birth his son and everything. Mm-hmm. And she would eventually find out his secret identity as Anakin Skywalker. And at first, she, briefly worked alongside Vader. I believe she founded her own organization called the Amidalans.
Yep.
Which, long story short, protected the grave of Padme Amidala and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Basically, the watchmen of Padme's grave, which is very... Yeah. Even in death, they are still loyal to Padme, which I fucking love. Which is one of my favorite panels from that comic, is when Vader sees Sabe and immediately is like, Padme? He's like, is that my wife?
Oh yeah, I'm going to share you a couple of pictures from one of the Darth Vader comics where all of the handmaidens fought Darth Vader. It's so friggin' badass. Yeah, even the youngest of the handmaidens joined up in it. Yeah, they're all there. Everybody is here. So friggin' badass.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is Vader we are talking about here.
Getting fucking flashbacks of Padme as they're fighting him.
Yeah. This is Padme this is Vader we are talking about, though. And obviously, he easily deals with the handmaidens.
Yeah.
There's also so she kind of teams up with Crimson Dawn, the criminal organization headed by, what's her face again?
First Dryden, Maul created it.
Yep.
Dryden Voss ran it, and Kira took it.
There we
go,
Kira. She briefly teamed up with Kira to undermine Darth Vader and everything. Didn't exactly work out. Then she teamed up with Jul Tambor, who is the great-grandson of Walt Tambor himself. Didn't exactly go the way she was going for. And she essentially teamed up with Darth Vader because I believe she came across the records of Padme's last words of saying they're still good in Anakin.
That's amazing that was even written down because only Bail and Obi-Wan were there.
Well, they personally went to Poe's Masa and, there's recordings and everything. So that's how they came across it.
Okay.
So yeah, she worked with Vader, and I think she currently still works with Vader and the Empire because she is.
Those comics are still going. Right?
Yeah, they're still going right now.
I need to start reading those.
Yeah, the brief inserts that I've seen are kind of interesting because there's a part where Vader brings Sabe to Palpatine himself, and she personally fights off his royal guards and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, she's kind of a badass.
Sabe's a badass. She grew up to be a badass.
But yeah, point is, Sabe is working for Vader because she's, she's fulfilling her promise and loyalty towards Padme. Because
in a way, yeah.
In a way, yes. Because Padme still believes that there's good in Vader, and Sabe is trying her damnedest to bring Vader back into the light, so to speak.
Trying to, at least.
And there's there's a frequent meme where all the handmaidens came together and they look very similar to Padme, and everybody just calls him Darth Vader's harem.
A little bit.
No, but wait, it's fair like some panels where Vader lifts up Sabe like she's a princess and is like,
Yeah, the bridal carry.
yeah. Everybody's joking about Darth Vader's harem a good amount of his comic.
They all look like Padme, so.
Why, ladies, let's not fight. Come on now. I know you're trying to fight over me, but come on.
I like that inclusion. Especially in the new canon.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
How old is Sabe at this point, I wonder?
Probably in her 50s.
Let me check the years. So she would be 12 during the Battle of Naboo. And it's 2 years after the Battle of Naboo. Around in her 60s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God damn, she's fucking badass.
Yeah, the Handmaidens move really elegantly for how old they are.
Yeah, and they work as a unit.
Yep.
Even after all that time, after they stopped serving Padme and, had their own lives, they still had that training ingrained into them. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested to see how Sabe's story ends.
Me too.
I'm pretty sure it won't end too well, but it's a nice road she went on.
Knowing Star Wars, she's probably gonna die. Knowing Star Wars.
That'd be the way of Star Wars. But yeah, that is all I have for the Handmaidens of Queen Amidala. Any thoughts on this, Hannah?
Not really. I'm pretty satisfied from all the information.
Yeah, me too. I gotta go back to my thumbnail artist and have him redraw Sabe as her past self instead of her current badass self, because that's definitely going to be a future episode.
Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, that is our episode of Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi? Or in this case, Yas Queen!
Yas Queen!
Or Harem! But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, everybody. Thank you as always for supporting the podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.
What are we covering next episode?
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. So the next episode, we will be covering the different sects of a Jedi.
Cool.
Yeah, like the green Jedi.
I was wondering if we were ever going to cover the green Jedi, because that was something I would like to learn more about.
Yeah, in all honesty, the Green Jedi, there's so little about them that their own individual episode would be like 15 minutes or something, so.
It makes sense to group them in with just the other sects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
That'll be interesting, but as always, thank you for supporting the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this one covering the Handmaidens. And as always, may the Force be with you.
This is the way.
Yes, Queen.
Yes, Queen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.